So my name is Allie. I have the blog Seasoned and Salted, and I started in 2020. And when I started it, I was on Squarespace. I was taking the photos with my camera phone under the fluorescent lights of the kitchen I'm in right now, and I would just slap up a recipe card, not even a recipe card, every night, just what I was making for dinner. And fast forward to last year, 2024.
4.
I was laid off from my full-time job and I had a baby at home. I was postpartum with my first kid, my only kid. And I decided I wanted to really take my blog further. So I'd already at that point migrated from Squarespace to WordPress, and I just didn't understand good practices. For instance, of course I had a recipe card, but I didn't really understand how to be helpful to the user. I just didn't understand that concept whatsoever. And so a few people had mentioned you, Kayla, as just a really good resource. And I reached out and we went through the site audit, and honestly to this day I still think it was such a helpful audit and I'm sure we'll talk about this more, but it was thorough, but it was really easy to digest and easy to take action on.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we did the audit together last January. So right now it's January 2025.
Yeah.
Just to get that timeline down. Um, but yeah, so I guess what were kind of like the top three problems that you were facing before we did the audit?
Yeah, I would say one before even the three is I just didn't know what I didn't know. I truly I just didn't understand any part of food blogging. And so I think the three issues were tech. So linking, um, site health, and then I would just say um I would just say the way that I wrote, I think is a big piece. I know it sounds kind of funny, but I think that you helped me to understand a little bit more of what I had to write for the user. An example of that would be giving, not just having the recipe card and some little pieces of information, but actually showing them, for instance, how to make the recipe with step-by-step photos. I didn't even realize that, or even the value in having an ingredient shot. I think just again you helped me to understand kind of how to be helpful versus just putting something there to be a placeholder.
Yeah, and I think that's something a lot of people don't really understand in the beginning, especially like
Yeah.
putting a post together in order of the user, like actually making the recipe is super helpful
Yeah.
and just
And
like
I think
breaking up paragraphs.
And I think too, it's really funny. I didn't realize, even when you told me that, hey, this is the best practice, I was like, okay, Kayla said, so I'm gonna listen. But it wasn't until even months later that I realized it, because I had people for instance, my grandmother asked me a question about the recipe, my lobster cakes, which is one of my first recipes that got me my traffic. And I was able to say, oh, if you actually go to this part where it says helpful tips, it's there. And so I think that that was the first time that I realized that just thinking in the user's perspective is the best way to go. And I think that that's Google does that. Google knows if you're being helpful.
Yeah, I think that's super important because like we're making these recipes regularly. Like we know everything,
Yeah.
so we don't really think about
Yeah,
what our user doesn't know.
exactly.
Yeah, awesome. So how do you think like if you hadn't have done the audit, like where do you think you'd be now?
I don't think I would be where I am. So I after so I did the audit in January. I monetized in May and hit 50,000 sessions. Then and then
What you were at before the audit?
yeah, before the audit I was at 700.
Oh wow.
So it wasn't
That's
great.
amazing.
Yeah, so it was really quick growth for me. So I'm from 700 to 50,000 in a few months. And then June, I think, is the first month I hit 100,000. So I doubled from May to June. And now where I am is my food blog. I was on Mediavine. I'm actually switching over to my ad networks. And there's a lot to that. I obviously really liked Mediavine, but it was funny. A lot of the best practices that you taught me, I was told to undo to increase my
Yeah.
RPMs, but that actually wasn't the case. It didn't work. So now I'm going back to what you told me, and I'm reformatting all my posts again.
Oh no.
It's okay, it's a learning. But
Yeah.
I'm going over to Raptive and then I also just launched my second blog because I found that I love blogging so much that I really want to keep doing it. And so I think the audit really helped because it gave me a sense of confidence and it also like helped me to love blogging because not only did I have the confidence but like have a very clear understanding of what I need to do for each post. And so I think being able to focus on that and focus less on like what other people are doing has been really helpful.
Yeah, I'm so excited for your second site.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing growth.
Yeah.
What do you think has made like the biggest difference for you if with growing your traffic
Yeah,
like in such a quick time?
I think honestly, I think part of it was like how many posts I put up. Like I put out at least 8 to 12 posts every month. But I think also it was about the content that I was writing and I think that like sticking to like what I know was really helpful. Um I think too some of the things that like made a big difference for me like when I met with you I had so many broken links.
Mm.
And like just like those little pieces of like I think I hate to use this word, but like sloppy work, like all over my site. And I think just like I think those things are some of the areas where people are so hesitant to like spend like an hour just like fixing them, these little
Mhm.
things. But those are things that actually like are I think allow you to have those quick wins because it's telling Google like, oh, you care about your site health and you care about kind of the consistencies. So I think just fixing all of those, I think just like the way that I wrote many posts that were very connected to each other and made sense with each other. Um, and I think also one thing that you taught me that allowed me to do that was just, I know some people say that you shouldn't have like a template for your posts, but I actually do. I know you love reusable blocks. Like, I actually find a lot of empowerment in that because I know when I'm developing the recipe, I'm already thinking of what I need to know for the user. So I find that the development stage and also the writing stage goes so much quicker now, kind of knowing what is helpful to the user.
Yeah, I think it's super helpful to use a template and you can just like toss
Yeah.
everything you can think of into it and then what you don't use for the post, just delete it.
Yes. Or like sometimes I'll be like, oh, like, and sometimes there are things that come up naturally. Like I'm doing a whole series on Seasoned and Salted, which is the blog that you audited. Spoiler alert, I will definitely have you do an audit on my other website. But like I'm doing a whole series on the traditional Roman pastas. And so there are four of those. And something that wouldn't naturally be part of that template is like an explanation of the others and kind of connecting them. And so like that's just something I've added. And then maybe there's something that, I delete that I would normally add to something else. So I think that it's nice because it allows you like a clear framework. And like it's kind of like when you're baking. Like if you have like a base sugar cookie recipe and you're like, I want to make sugar cookies with M&Ms versus sugar cookies with sprinkles, like you just add the mix in or you take away what you don't need.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
Awesome. Do you have any advice for people that are maybe getting started with their blog or want to start a second one?
The biggest advice I have, and I tell everyone I know this, and I have so many friends that have DM'd me even in the last week that went to your webinar that found out about you from me, which is like my biggest claim to fame is I try if someone doesn't know who you are, they need to know because I think for me the biggest piece of advice I have for someone starting a blog is look for reputable free resources. And I think the number one is your email list. Like I've what messaged you like so many times in the last week, just being like, where is this one that you sent? Because I
Mhm.
saved them all, but then I've lost some of them. So I think like finding some people that you think are doing really well, like find people that you want to emulate and then reach out to them, follow what they do. Like you're not copying them, but you're like you look at what they do
Yeah.
and look for really strong resources. And I think the thing is only learn from people or invest in development from people who are doing something that you want to do, right?
Mhm.
Like aspirationally. I think too the biggest thing that people I think one of the biggest reasons why people quit is because they're looking for instant gratification.
Yeah.
I am such an instant gratification person in my like personal life. Like
Same.
if I want a cookie, I'm going to eat a cookie right now. Like I'm
Mhm.
not going to wait till after dinner or something. Or if I like want to purchase something, like I have never thought about a purchase and gone back to it the next day. Like I'll purchase, like I just do things when I want them. And I think with blogging, that was really hard for me to
Yeah.
understand that like you have to put in the work consistently for like 6 months at least when you're starting before you really see the amazing results. And like you can't lie to yourself. Like in this type of business, and I know you had a corporate job before this, and I still have a corporate full-time job. Like you have coworkers and you have team members, you have managers who are like relying on you, and there's like a trickle down effect. And like you can lose your job. But when it comes to food blogging, like you're the one that's holding yourself accountable. Even if you do join those accountability groups, which I think are really honestly very beneficial for people, you ultimately know at the end of the day if you're doing your work to the best of the ability or not. So I think just like sticking with it and being really consistent is really important, but also like not discrediting some really, really strong free resources. But, you know, I think that's
Mm.
good too.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I agree. That's a big reason why a lot of people do quit because they don't see those results right
Yeah.
away. And I guess outside looking in, and also like from helping you with the audit, like I think some things that have helped you grow really quickly is that you took action immediately and put in the work like consistently. Like you were working so hard, I could tell.
I
And
remember when you sent me like the document, like one of my friends, Emily, did an audit with you, and she said she
Mhm,
was like, the document that you get after the audit, it's so helpful. Like, not only do you tell me what to do, but then you also have the Loom videos, which like blew my mind. I think that like if you're someone that invests in the audit, like I would tell people you are better off waiting to do the audit until you actually are ready to do make the changes from the audit within like a reasonable time frame. Like
mhm.
I think
Yeah.
that's really big too, is making sure that you have the time and energy to actually make the changes, which it's not that bad. Like, but I think it is really important. Like, don't invest money in something if you don't have time or the energy right now to actually like see it through. And I've done that millions of times
Yeah.
with courses. Like,
Hmm.
I have signed up for probably 4 courses before, and I have never finished a single course. So I've
Yeah.
just learned that I'm not a course person, but like an audit or like a one-on-one coaching is great.
Hmm. Do you think like I guess like the reason you took action so quickly, do you think it had anything to do with how I laid out the resources and stuff, or is it just
Yeah,
the
it was.
position you were in?
I think it was a little bit of both. I mean, having been laid off, I had like I wasn't like stressed about money because I had a great settlement, but I I had the time. I mean, I had a baby at home, so like I had the time, but
Yeah.
I also didn't have the
Yeah.
time. I'll like never forget that. But I think the way that you laid it out was really helpful. Like I get overwhelmed by a lot of information at once, and it was so easy. Like, I love that it was a Google Doc. I love that I could make notes and ask you questions on it before. I don't know if you still do it this way, but I love that you sent that to me before we hopped on the call. Do you still
Hmm.
do that? Like
Yeah.
that like was helpful because then I feel like we were able to use our time so efficiently. Like I remember
Hmm.
hopping on that call and being like, we blew through all this because I like wrote notes and you wrote back. And then I think just after that call, it was so easy to know, okay, like what is the priority? What are the quick wins? And like I loved it. Like I thought it was awesome. And I honestly would suggest that to anybody. I think it's a great audit.
Thank you. Another thing that I think like helped you grow really quickly is I think you're very niche down.
I
Um,
am. Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of, so I know there's like a lot of debate on that. I like it for me because I get shiny item, like shiny object syndrome.
yeah.
And for me, it's just so nice focusing on what I know. And even now from last year, I've niched down so much more. Like I'm really doing Italian pasta forward recipes and also coastal New England recipes, which is kind of different, but they are kind of aligned in terms of like the fresh ingredients and seafood.
Mhm.
I think that helps because it's easier to interlink content. And I think people, I don't think people, I think people underestimate the value of proper linking structures.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Awesome. I guess how has like all of this progress and things changed your personal life?
A lot. Like I think it's given me something to be so proud of. I always thought that I was someone that had to feel success or fulfillment from my full-time job, and I love my full-time job so much. But now I feel this sense of pride and success in the business. Like my dad said to me the other day, he went on my website to make a chicken pot pie or
Or chicken
something
pot
I
pie.
read. And it's really good. And he was like, there are ads on your website. Is that allowed? Is something wrong? And I was like, no, Dad, that's how I make money. And that was so cool. Like that was really cool. And like we had family here in Christmas and I told them, I was like, oh my God, I made like a few $1,000s like last month or the month before. Like, and they were like, doing what? And I was like, sleeping, eating, living my life, like letting my website just live and exist. And I think that has been really great because it's just, I don't know, it gives you a sense of pride and um it gives me like a productive hobby, which is good.
Do you think you'll stick with your full-time job and keep vlogging on the side?
So my goal, I think, is like I'm 32. I had to think when I said that. Um, I'm 32, and I think, my daughter is 1.5. Oh, hold on. Sorry, my husband just texted me. He just asked if I need something from the grocery store, and I know that I do. What is it
Oh
that
my
I
God.
need from the grocery store? Okay, I'll tell him. Sorry.
No, no, you're good.
I think for me, so I'm 32 and I love my full-time job. My goal, I think, is like I think I'd like to do this full time by 40. Like I think right now, honestly, people think I'm crazy, but I have a full-time job, I have a daughter, and now I have two blogs, and all I do is read in my free time. Um, and I have two dogs and a husband. But I like the balance right now. Like it's fine to me.
Mhm.
Um, and so I want to do everything for as long as possible. And then I think eventually when I'm making multi six figures, like then I think I'd be comfortable doing this full time. For me, actually something big that you did help me do is I used to do client work, freelance work, and I thought I loved it because everyone else I know does it and they seem to love it. And so I told myself I loved it. And one day my husband was like, I think you hate creating stuff for other people. And I was like, yeah, I think I do too. Um, Especially when like I worked with you and then my website monetized, I realized like any time that I'm spending investing into another brand is time that I could spend making something for me that I love.
Mhm. Yeah.
So now because of kind of the success of the of Seasoned Salted, and now One Bowl Bakery will launch, and my goal is to have that monetized by Q3, which I know is a little crazy. I mean, I really wrote Q2 in my notes, but like I don't, we'll see. But my goal, like this year, like I'm not gonna send one single pitch email this year. I'm not gonna work with anyone.
Mhm.
And that just sounds really nice.
Yeah, I pretty much stopped pitching and all of that once I
Yeah.
started doing the coaching because I am like, I
Yeah.
have the
Well,
blog and coaching and I enjoy them both way more than brand works.
yeah. And like for me, I just realized I get like I have anxiety
Same.
and I know we're both anxious feel like it comes out in certain times. And like for me, I get a high from this like the business development and the sales aspect of the deals, but like I don't actually want to do the work.
Yeah.
And sending to them makes me nervous. And I don't know. So I think like that's the biggest piece is like my husband said to me, he's like, so basically your dream is to just, not to just, but to only work on your blog and not to create content for other people. And I was like, yeah. He was like, that's amazing. Like you're just working for yourself. Like that's what you want. So
Mhm.
it's exciting. I think I'll probably do it sooner than 40, but
Yeah.
in case my full-time job sees it, yeah, I'll do this till 40.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point too. I think like a lot of people see what other people are doing and they think they have to do it too, but it's like you can
Yeah.
follow your own path. Like you don't have to make it super complicated. Like stick with what you know and what you enjoy.
Yeah, like I know a lot of people, even like one of my friends, Megan, who you know, um, she makes the most beautiful, stunning videos, and she has videos on all of her recipe pages, and I love them. I'm obsessed. Um, but honestly, I love shooting videos, but I just don't have the time. So like I'm not shooting videos. And I think that's the
Mhm.
thing about blogging that people need to remember. Like do whatever you can do to the best of your ability. Do not spread yourself too thin. And I know I'm saying that while I just said that I have two blogs now, but like look at your capacity and just keep it simple.
Yeah, and it seems like you're managing things pretty well and you enjoy it, which is really important.
Yeah. Well, for now I do. We'll see.
Yeah. You can always pivot. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. No, I think you're doing amazing and you clearly like have put in the time and effort to develop like a good skill set and everything. So I'm very
Yeah.
excited
Again, I
for you.
mean the audit did really help. I think the audit created like a sense of urgency that I think as someone who's like in the blog capacity is self-employed, sometimes you don't get that sense of urgency put upon you. So I think that really helped too.
Mhm. Well, is there anything else that you want to share, advice you have for bloggers or anything like that?
For me, honestly, like again, the biggest piece is I would tell anyone to follow you on Instagram and sign up for those emails. It's crazy. Like in creating the second blog of One Bowl Bakery, in the last week, there were two things that tripped me up. And you had resources on both of them. I'm serious. It's amazing. It's like it's just
What were
it's
they?
so it was the nutrition info, like getting it to do a pop
Oh yeah,
down.
yeah.
And then it was um oh my God, especially for baking, it was when you switch the serving size, getting like the other like the grams to switch
Oh, you
over.
got it. Okay,
And
good.
so I wrote that in a food blogging group, and literally someone wrote, Kayla Burton has a video on that.
Wait, really? I didn't see that.
Yeah. And anytime I write to my like close friends, like, oh, I need help with this, because my close friends are just food bloggers on Instagram. Um, 99% of the time someone's like, oh, Kayla has a video on that. To the point where I'm like, oh, I should just like go there before Google or asking. And I really think that those resources are great. I think too, give yourself time with your blog before doing audit. Like have your blog for a while, just do to your best ability, put out good content that is connected to each other, that you are an expert in. Like something I do not know anything about, crock pot meals. Like I don't own a crock pot. So I'm not going to go buy a crock pot and create crock pot meals. Or actually a really good example is, Ninja Creamies are really hot right now.
Mhm.
My husband uses his Ninja Creamy every day. That's amazing. Um, Chris would probably love one for like the games.
I wanted to get one, and he was like, "You don't need one. There's no space on our counter."
I
Well,
said that
he
to Eric, but
didn't
like
say like
honestly,
that,
I
but
get why he uses it. But like I am not gonna now create a Creamy section because it's hot. Like I think you have to get into blogging because of a passion that you have. Like, don't
Mhm.
start a blog to make money. Start a blog because you have something that keeps you up at night and you cannot stop thinking about. For me, I literally can't stop thinking about food. And like sometimes something will just pop in my head, and Key Search is the number one website on my phone. I'll just pop in Key Search and I'll just look at and I'll be like, oh, that's a great idea. But I think guys, stop my dogs. I think just like follow what you're interested in and definitely do an audit with Kayla. But I think like get a few recipes up, like get some traction and then, save up, do the audit, but then follow through with it.
Yeah, give yourself some time to like figure things out on your own and figure out where your
Yeah.
weaknesses are and like where you
Yeah.
actually really need help.
And also, oh, the last one is do not sign up for so many tools that you can't
Yeah.
manage. Like I only use, and I know you're not a Rank IQ user. I am. So like I use two tools, Key Search and Rank IQ, and that's
Mhm.
it. Like I don't, the one other tool that I did really love was Clarity by Food Blogger Pro, like their Clarity. I know there's like Microsoft Clarity as well.
Yeah.
Um, that's something that I'm like thinking about getting again for 2025. But the reason why I have it now is just because in my head, I can only manage so many systems and processes.
Hmm.
So I think that's something too that people get overwhelmed with, like the investment in just the systems. Start small and you can always add or detract later.
Hmm. Yeah, same for
Yeah.
plugins too. I've
Oh my
seen a
gosh,
lot of,
people are so plug-in happy.
yeah. It's like less is more.
I had a plugin that like ruined my Google Analytics for my entirety of my website. And
Yeah.
so like it took finding a developer to be like that was it and um just ask people what they're using and again only ask advice of people who you admire and who you find is aspirational.
Hmm. Yeah. This
Yeah.
is all really great advice. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for
Well,
sharing.
thank you. I wouldn't be where I am if it weren't for you, and I wouldn't be launching a second website if it weren't for you. And I think you are just like the kindest person ever. Like you don't have a mean bone in your body, and I feel like you were born to help people. Like I really believe that you were. I mean, everyone loves you. You're so supportive. So it's great. You've made such a great community.
Yeah, I this is my favorite part about what I do, and just connecting
I
with
know. I feel like you love this
everybody.
more than you love the food
I
blogging.
do, yeah.
Yeah, I get to. There's probably a lot more like satisfaction, interpersonal satisfaction.
Yeah, yeah, because I like growing up, I was very shy and didn't really get that kind of like support and attention. So now I'm like, I just want to give everybody else the
Well,
support.
it's very felt. Everyone feels that way. We love you.
Thank you. I love
Yeah.
all of you guys back. So thank you so much again. This was
Yeah, of
great.
course.